Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, he's back after a long time. One of my favorite fellas and my teacher, Mark Boney. And today he's gonna actually show you what we all think about as to why everybody will say I have a Raj Yoga, but it didn't come alive. I have a Dhan Yoga, it didn't come alive. So Mark is going to show us today how to qualify yogas, especially from Parashari point of view. And then he's also going to show us things with Jaimini as well towards the end. So Mark, as always, the floor is yours. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Kapiel. Nice to see you again. Nice to be on here.
Yes.
So, if you ask the question, what's the essence of Jyotish? My answer is the essence is yogas and dashas. It's the thing that makes Jyotish different and unique from other forms of astrology. As you know, it's the thing that gives it its predictive power, right? But in programs these days, it can help you identify the yoga. So, of course, the first step is always to see the yoga in the chart. What is a yoga? Yoga is something that shows a particular karmic potential, right? Kapiel Raaj used to refer to that as static potential.
Yeah.
And programs can help us do that. But what programs can't do is really the most important next step, which, as you said, is qualify the yogas. Because yogas can be full fruit yogas, partial fruit yogas, and can be no fruit yogas,
right.
As you talked about. A person maybe has a Raja yoga or Dana yoga. Where's the effects in my life? They don't see that. And then it's the question of why and how can that be sort of determined astrologically. So a big important skill for any Jyotishi is to be able to do this thing called qualify. Part of that qualification is to what level of magnitude will the yoga manifest, to what degree. There are Raja yogas that will make you president of the United States. There are Raja yogas that might be president of your bridge club, right?
Yeah.
Both of them are Raja yogas, right. Very different in the status, right?
Yeah.
So that a lot has to do, as you well know, with strength of planets. But then there's the quality of the yoga too, in the sense of there's pure yogas, say a favorable yoga that gives mostly, almost entirely sweet fruit. But then you could have a yoga that's a good yoga, but it can be very blemished. Well, there'll be a lot of bitter with the sweet, right?
Yeah.
So the Shastra talks about yogas that are sadosh, that is with a blemish, or near dosh, without a blemish, right? And they, so you can have these no fruit, partial fruit, no fruit, or full fruit, and then with a blemish or without a blemish. And this is what I kind of want to talk about and show. Okay. And then, of course, there's more to that than just the Rashi in qualifying a yoga. How is that planet placed in Navamsha, right? Exactly. Does it have some underlying source of strength? Raja yogas are planets that can, or combinations that can give you status, in which case their placement in the D10 also becomes important to look at, right? So I'm going to be able to share screen here, right?
Sure, yes.
Okay, so let me pull up a document. And you can let me know when you see that.
Okay, now I see it.
Okay. Did it just move? What are you seeing on the screen?
Now I see double charts, like one behind the other.
Yeah, that's not what you're supposed to be seeing. Hold on. I don't know what happened there. Just let me correct this.
Okay.
Now,
now they're all over.
Now there's three charts. So let me stop sharing screen. Sure. And
all right.
let me share screen. Let me share screen again before you pull that up.
Okay, yeah. Now we can see it. Single chart.
But I can't see it now. Why is that? This is so, okay, here, now I do. So you're seeing a chart of Harry Truman, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you can restart now.
Yeah, it's recording.
Oh, okay. So many of you will not recognize this name, but this is the chart of a former president of the United States. He was vice president, and he became president when Franklin Delano Roosevelt died in I think it was 1946. So in other words, this person occupied an extremely high political position, president of the United States. So Kapiel, looking at this chart, what combination might you immediately notice that could potentially elevate a person to a very high position?
Oh, it's the Dharma Karma Adhipati Yoga in the 10th between Mercury and Venus.
Exactly. So there's an exchange between the strongest angle lord, 10th lord, and the strongest trine lord. This Raja Yoga is actually highlighted in the ancient texts as being a combination not just for fame, but for great fame, not just a high position, but a very high position, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this shows the static potential for that. And sure enough, he became president in the Mercury Mahadasha when he was running that major period. Now, what kind of combination is Mercury and Saturn?
That's also a Raj Yoga, 1st and 5th.
Exactly. In fact, the fifth house, fifth lord, one of the meanings of the fifth house is Rajya, or the authority to rule, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for anyone with Virgo Lagna, the combination of Mercury and Saturn can form a good Raja Yoga as well. And it was exactly in the sub-period of Saturn, major period of Mercury, sub-period of Saturn, that he became the president. So this is a perfect illustration of what you would say, yogas show what, dashas show when.
Right? Yeah.
And the fruit manifested strongly and obviously at a very high level. Now, I'm going to show you another chart. And what do you notice that is similar?
Oh, same. Dharma Karma Adhipati Yoga and the Jupiter Venus mutual aspect.
Well, the Jupiter-Venus mutual aspect was not part of the first, Harry Truman's chart, but you correctly identified that he has the 9-10 exchange for Virgo Lagna again, right?
Yeah.
So this is belongs to an Indian man who contacted me. He had learned a little bit about, and a man from India, born in India.
Okay.
A man born from India. I think he's now living and working in Australia. He contacted me. He'd been learning a little Jyotish. He learned about this 9-10 exchange, right? And wanted to know why he didn't have sort of great fame, right?
Right.
And so there's always a reason for that, right? So look at Harry Truman's 9-10 exchange again, okay? Venus by itself in the 10th house, Mercury with Saturn in the 9th. What's different about this one?
The combustion of Saturn and Mercury, and an 8th lord being with Venus.
Good. You see it immediately.
Yeah.
Mercury is combust, so that's quite a blemish on Mercury. Venus is retrograde, and then it's also with Mars, as many may recognize, not a good planet at all for Virgo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ruling two Dishtanas, 3 and 8. And then, think about the trick lords in this chart. Saturn, because it also rules the 6th. Sun, because it rules the 12th. Mars, because it rules the 8th.
Yeah.
So in other words, in this chart, you have the influence of all trick lords on either the 10th house or the 10th lord.
10th lord, yeah.
Now, here's the main point. He wouldn't run the Mercury major period until he was in his late 70s, which means he probably would never, ever get Venus.
Right.
So this is, yoga shows some potential, but dasha never activates that potential. Plus, the potential is very blemished.
Mm-hmm.
This is what we mean when we say qualifying yogas. Same yoga as in this chart.
Yeah.
Different result. Now, I'm not even showing division chart here, but you can see the difference just based on Rashi, right? And
Right.
the big difference is that he never, ever gets the major periods at a good time of life for either Mercury or Venus. But even if he did, it's not going to be of the quality that Harry Truman experienced because of the blemishes here. Now, did this man have a successful career? Yes. He was in corporate finance positions. He was in leadership positions, as one might suspect here. But he also had some major ups and downs. He had some positions go out from underneath him with all this malefic influence on the 10th house, 10th lord, particularly the 8th lord Mars.
Right.
So this is what I mean by a blemished yoga, where you've got bitter with the sweet. Is it clear?
Yes.
So now look at this chart. And since it's Cancer Lagna, I'm sure you'll sort of immediately identify some of the powerful Raja Yogas that exist here.
Oh, absolutely.
Which are, what would you consider the most powerful, most dramatic Raja Yoga?
Well, that would be Jupiter Moon in the 10th.
That would be one of them.
Yeah, and then Mars,
There's
Saturn, and just Mars by itself in the ascendant would create a Raj Yoga, and Parivartan Raj Yoga between Mars and Moon.
That's it, the Parivartana Yoga, the
Yeah.
1-10 exchange. The little classic called the Lagu Parashari highlights an exchange between 1 and 10 as being one of the more powerful Raja Yogas you can have.
Yes.
And in the case of Cancer, it involves the Yoga Karaka planet, Mars.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Mars is getting its debilitation canceled here, gives additionally Nicha Bhanga Raja Yoga, and Mars and Saturn also form an angled triangle combination.
Right.
Moon, as you highlighted, is besides being a Graha Yoga, Gadikesari Yoga, it's also a 1-9 combination.
Right.
So you would look at this chart and you would say, wow, you might say, wow, this person is destined to occupy, very high positions. And what I'm telling you is that it's not necessarily so, because you have to start thinking about some of the conditions of these planets. When we consider the moon here, the Lagna Lord, involved in 2 very powerful yogas, what's the first thing we consider with regards to the moon?
Is it bright or is it waxing and waning? And
Exactly.
yeah.
What do you know about this moon?
It's a waning moon.
Dark waning moon.
Yeah.
And then, does it have any afflictions?
Well, it's afflicted by Ketu and Saturn.
Very close to the Rahu Ketu axis, and getting the aspect of Saturn as the 8th Lord.
Yeah.
Right? And then even consider Mars itself. Mars and Saturn form an angled triangle combination, but they are also 2 malefics in the Lagna, including Saturn as the 8th Lord with Mars.
Right.
Right? And so when this person ran their moon period, which they did right after they graduated school, of course it gave them a position. In fact, they got their first engineering position with an automotive firm right out of school in exactly Moon Mars.
Okay.
As one would expect, right? But it was an ordinary sort of thing. And then, of course, after Moon, he ran Mars, which actually proved to be, in many ways, very good. He ended up in a pretty high position in a startup, had some early stock options, gained financially. So in other words, these yogas gave their results, and fairly good results, but not at the level that you might expect given the type of yogas that are here, right?
Right.
Now in Navamsha, Mars and the Moon do not have any sort of special condition or dignity, right?
Yeah.
Nothing exceptional there. And if I showed you D10, what do you notice about the placement of both the Moon and Mars?
Moon and Mars.
They're in Dushtanas.
Okay. Yeah.
They don't have good placements in D10. They don't have any particularly good dignity either. Now, both of them are with benefics, which is good, right? But there's nothing exceptional about their status in this chart.
Right.
So this should tell someone that, the level of status, the level of Raja Yoga here is going to be more of what I would call an ordinary variety. Right? Good.
I had a question with this. Would you, once after you have looked at the Samsha, would you have also paid attention to Ayar Ekadasamsha to see for status?
D11.
Yeah.
D11 talking about. The answer is yes, but I don't want to overcomplicate things here.
Okay.
Okay. But your answer is yes. You've seen my research material about that.
Right. That's what prompted me that.
So the answer is yes, but primarily D10. Particularly, primarily D10. Now look at this chart and tell me, what do you see that's similar about that previous chart? We're looking at a Rashi now.
Oh, same Parivartan Yoga. But this time it's unblemished.
Same exchange.
Yeah.
You can see here that the Moon Jupiter is also here. They're not together in the 10th as in the previous chart, but they're still forming Gajikesari Yoga in a 1-9 combination along the 4-10 axis.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, virtually the same yogas. Now, what's the difference in this moon?
This is a waxing moon.
This is a very bright waxing moon. All right? Does it have any afflictions?
Nope.
No. Does Mars have any afflictions?
No.
Remember, it was with Saturn, the 8th Lord before.
Yeah.
Now look at this Jupiter. Look at the Jupiter's degree. What do you notice about that?
I'm sure it's either exalted or in its own sign in Navamsha.
Vargotama.
Vargotama, yeah.
It's Vargotama. And then also, what other source of strength does Jupiter have here? Do you see the exchange between Venus and Jupiter?
Oh, yeah, the Parivartan. Yeah, that's it.
Now see Navamsha, moon. Remember, it was unremarkable in the other chart in Navamsha. Here, it's the 9th Lord in its own 9th house.
9th house, yeah. And again, creating a Raj Yoga with Mars.
And Mars is Vargotama.
Yeah.
Mars was in a Gandanta position in the previous chart.
Mm-hmm.
It was at its deepest point of debility. Here, I'll show you. See, Mars is at 28 degrees here. It's at its deepest point of debility in a Gandanta position. Same yoga, but different conditions of planets. No blemish, stronger planets, so you get a much quality of the fruit. Guess whose chart this belongs to? This is the chart of Naomi Judd. Naomi Judd is was a hugely successful country western singer along with her daughter, Winona.
Okay.
In other words, in her Moon and Mars period, she got great fame and fortune.
Okay, yes, absolutely.
Why? Because even though the other person had the same yogas, which did give their fruit, it was by no near the same level of fruit or the quality of fruit that the very same yogas gave in this chart. Again, this is what we mean about qualifying yogas. Now, I showed you her Navamsha. You can see also in Dashamsha that her Mars and Moon have better placements.
Yeah.
Mars in particular goes to the 9th. So this is how we qualify yogas again.
Now, let's say, for example, if Navamsha was ordinary, but then Dasamsha was, as you saw, would that still would have given that status?
Yes, and I'll show you an example of that coming up.
Okay.
But a strong placement in Navamsha, I'm not talking by house, I'm talking about a dignity or some source of strength like being Vargotama or being in an exchange, being in its own sign, being its exaltation sign. This will really boost up the quality of any yoga that planet is configured in the birth chart.
Right.
So now, focusing on this chart, what house kind of immediately strikes your eye and maybe some yogas that are being formed there?
Oh, pretty much obviously Mars is creating Raj Yoga. Jupiter, Venus themselves are creating a Raj Yoga. Mars, Saturn creates a Raj Yoga. Moon itself also creates a Raj Yoga. So
focusing on the 9th house. Focusing on the 9th house.
Yeah.
Because that's where your eye should
be
it's
drawn. Saraswati Yoga.
Yes, good. It's Saraswati Yoga. It's a really excellent Saraswati Yoga. You got all 3 benefics in the best trine house, and then look at the condition of 2 of those benefics.
Yes, exalted in its own sign.
And Venus, zero in on Venus's degrees, 26, 26, not merely in its exaltation sign, but just a half a minute away from its highest point of exaltation.
Right.
And this is the chart of a young Indian woman who's been running her Venus Mahadasha, but there's one yoga here we've not identified yet. Some may be aware of a yoga called Lakshmi Yoga. Lakshmi Yoga is defined when Venus is in its own or exaltation sign in an angle with the 9th Lord in its own or exaltation sign. Bill Gates has the Gemini Lagna variety of this. This yoga can only form from 3 ascendants, either Gemini, Cancer, or Scorpio. Here it's forming from Cancer, where you've got Venus exalted in a trine with the ninth lord in the ninth house. Lakshmi Yoga, which
Now,
can
is
give
this
not
yoga being blemished with Sun Saturn hemming?
good for you. You see it.
Oh yeah.
This is exactly right. This is a beautiful yoga in terms of Raja Yoga, Dana Yoga,
Yeah.
Saraswati Yoga, but has this major blemish of having Saturn and the Sun on either side, natural malefics, influence the ninth house and all those planets in the ninth house and the houses that they rule, therefore. Now, another point I want to make here, and one of the reasons I'm showing this chart, is that yogas always happen in the context of the chart of a whole. Look in all the kendras in this chart.
Occupied by
What do you mean?
planets.
Occupied by planets, but what kind of planets?
Malefic planets. I think it's called Nala Yoga.
Well, it is a form, but it's a particular type of yoga called Sarpa Yoga.
Sarpa Yoga, okay.
Sarpa Yoga, and it's not a favorable yoga at all. Particularly could be affecting because all the grahas by Kendra are influencing, all these malefics by Kendra are influencing the Lagna, and you'll notice that the Lagna Lord, though well placed in the fifth house, is also in a stabilization sign and approaching a Gandanta position.
Yeah.
So it's actually kind of a sad story here. This is a chart of a highly intelligent, beautiful Indian woman who unfortunately was born with some congenital defect with her lower limbs, such that she functions in a wheelchair. Now, as one might suspect, in her Venus period, she achieved very well academically with the Saraswati Yoga, and she's in an affluent family. It's not, Lakshmi Yoga typical level of wealth like you see in, if this yoga was not blemished, but she's definitely been, living in an affluent type of situation. The situation was, though, is that because she functions out of a wheelchair, there was a university program that she got into that would give her a law degree in 5 years, but she was not able yet to attend because the facility is not, you might say, handicap friendly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in other words, in her Venus period, her education got interrupted, at least at the moment. She's going to overcome this. Things are going to turn out fine, all right? But it's been an obstacle. Notice the placement of Venus in D24.
Yeah, and the 8th.
In the 8th with the benefic, but also aspected by Mars, the 8th Lord itself.
And the 12th Lord of loss.
Shows the interruption.
Yeah.
In the educational process. But as I said, she's going to be able to overcome this, and she is going to be able to obtain the higher educational goals that she seeks. It's just that, there is these obstacles. But the reason I'm showing this is a very good yoga spoiled, right, by the hemming. And I've found malefic hemming of any planet, any house, to be a pretty significant blemish.
Yeah.
That's my experience indicates that. Now, in contrast, again, I'm dating myself. You maybe not recognize this name, but in the 1960s, this woman was a very, very hugely successful pop musician, Judy Collins. And it was happening, she had great name and fame and fortune. Right? Notice that she has the exact same yoga.
Yeah.
Right? Exact same yoga, but without the hemming. And there are malefics in the kendras, but they're not in all 4 kendras. There's no Sarpa Yoga here.
And there's a niche bhang as well happening.
There is.
Yeah.
And when she ran her Jupiter period, you'll see that Jupiter's also formed in a Kesari Yoga here because there's a mutual glance with all these benefics onto the moon, the Lagna Lord, right?
Yeah.
Forming
in a way, would you also qualify this as Chandra Adi Yoga in a way?
No, not in a way. It is Chandra Yoga.
Oh,
it's
it
not
is Chandra Adi. Okay, because I thought they have to be in the 6, 8, 12 respectively.
The perfect Chandra Yoga
Yeah.
is when there's benefics in 6, 7, and 8. So this is what I would call a variation, a variant of Chandra Yoga. But it's a very, very powerful Kesari yoga because not only is the moon Jupiter, but you've got the two other benefics, and again, Venus in its exaltation sign.
Yeah.
And of course, Saraswati yoga is good for, learning, education, but of course, it's also good for, being expression of the arts. This woman was an artist, a very successful artist, and got very wealthy because there's also Lakshmi Yoga here.
Mm-hmm.
Venus in its exaltation sign in an angle or a trine with the ninth lord also in its own or exaltation sign in an angle or trine. So Lakshmi Yoga forms for anyone with Cancer if Jupiter and Venus combine in the ninth. Same yoga, again, different result. Why? Because of the additional qualifications. Part of the qualification in the previous chart was the context in which that yoga exists, which was the Sarpa Yoga, which dominates the chart.
Yeah.
There's not a favorable feature, obviously. She's got this handicap that she's going to have to deal with the rest of her life. Doesn't mean she can't go on to have a good and successful life, but it's just a reality of what, is a part of her life, right?
Yeah.
So, and you can see also, I'm not sure, if you looked at her Jupiter, this is Judy Collins' Dashamsha, if you looked at her Jupiter in Navamsha, it would be unremarkable, right?
Yeah.
But when you see it in Dashamsha, this was your question, what if a planet is doesn't any great shakes in Navamsha, but it is in Dashamsha? Well, when it comes to at least the career aspect and status and so forth, if you have Jupiter strongly placed here, in addition to the yogas it's involved in the birth chart, well, again, this is going to tell you that the quality of the yoga here is going to be quite high, and it was.
Okay.
Take a look at this chart.
Yeah. Again, Saraswati Yoga.
Saraswati Yoga, is that all in the first house?
And Kesari Yoga. Raj Yoga.
Multiple Raj yogas. Who's the Yoga Karaka planet for Aquarius?
Oh, Venus.
And there it is with Mercury. What house does Mercury rule?
5th house.
And then, are there any sources of strength for any of these planets?
I would, if I had the Navamsha, I would know, but I'm sure.
No. Just based on the birth chart, what do we know about Mercury and Jupiter in the first house?
Oh, Mercury and Jupiter.
Directional strength, right?
Directional strength, yes.
And then look at the 10th house, Lagna Lord in the 10th with Mars.
Yeah.
So it's a 110 Raja Yoga in the 10th house. So there are some, pretty dramatic yogas in this chart. And this person happens to be running either a midlife, well, I think they're in their 30s. And they are running maybe approaching 40, and they're running their Mercury Mahadasha. So these yogas are being activated. And of course, we as Jyotishis would predict some pretty good level of Raja Yoga, right?
Right.
He also predict, since I know that he's recently married, that there'll be children in this period because Mercury, of course, is the 5th lord. It's conjunct Jupiter, the natural Putra Karaka. So children during this period would be a very logical prediction. But what I'm focusing on is Saraswati yogas being activated, Raja yogas are being activated, Dan yogas are being activated.
Do they teach at all as part of their profession?
Sorry?
Do they teach at all as part
No, not as of yet. Now, this person is very well educated, doing very well in the corporate world, will rise up. It's happening. I predicted it for them. So this is giving the results of these yogas, but again, it's more on what I would call an ordinary level. Right?
Really?
Now see this chart. Well, part of and then, if we look at Mercury in D10, it is well placed in an angle. It doesn't have any exceptional dignity or any particular source of strength. Again, its position here is what I would call more ordinary. But now look at this chart, and what does it have in common with the previous chart that we just saw?
The directional strength and the Raj Yoga with Mercury, Venus. I mean, Venus, Venus, Mercury.
Has that same...
And also has a Yoga.
Good, Kapiel, you're very quick.
Yeah.
So you see that, first of all, the real dramatic Raja Yoga is you've got Yoga Karaka Venus, ruler of 4th and 9th in the first, Raja Yoga by placement, but then it combines with Mercury, its friend, the 5th Lord. So that's a good dramatic Raja Yoga. It has the moon there in the Lagna again. It's not involved in a Gajikeswara Yoga, but it's involved in a good Mukuta Yoga with Jupiter very exalted, falling 6th from there. And here's the difference. If you look at the D10, what do you notice about her Mercury here?
In its own sign. And
In its own, and who's it with? The
with
sun.
the Lord Sun.
In
It's
the
getting
11th
to
house
do
of
that in yoga.
good. And in the 11th house of gains and awards.
Yeah.
This is the chart of a person who last night won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in her Sun Mercury Sun period. This is the chart of Laura Dern,
Okay.
actress Laura Dern. Last night, she won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. It's happening in her Mercury Sun period. What's different about her Mercury? Now, Mercury was getting directional strength in both charts.
Yeah.
Mercury at 1411 of Aquarius puts it Vargotama.
Okay.
Boosts up the quality of this yoga.
Yeah.
That, combined with its placement in the Shamsha, in its own sign. Now make no mistake, that previous chart, he's getting the fruit of Raja Yoga, but he's not winning Academy Awards.
Right.
Do you see the difference?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And this is what we mean when we say qualifying yogas. So actually, I want to totally switch topics at this point. Okay. I mentioned to you that I'm going to be teaching starting March 7th. It's not yet announced on my website, but soon will be. I'm going to be teaching a course on Jaimini Jyotish again. Actually, the title of the course is Case Studies in Jaimini Jyotish. It would be open to anyone who has taken my first course, The Essentials of Jaimini, or read the book, or in some other way have learned the basics of Jaimini Jyotish. But it's not for pure beginners.
Okay.
Because what the course is all about is really sort of taking all the Jaimini concepts and showing how you put them together, and then how you use them in connection with Vimshottari Dasha, that composite sort of approach that you've been exposed to before.
Right.
And to kind of demonstrate what I'm talking about here, just a little anecdote here. I was once having a conversation with Kapiel Raaj, and I was asking him about his approach to a birth chart. That is, when he first looked at a chart and he was kind of looking at what time it was in a person's life, what his methodology was. And, he very much favored the Jaimini system, of which he was very expert. And so I wasn't surprised to hear is that he would normally start looking at things from the Jaimini point of view and Charadasha, right? And then he would say, or take the hint or take a clue as to what that period and subperiod portends, what it indicates could be happening in a person's life. And then he would sort of correlate that and cross-check it in the Vimshottari system, right? You've been exposed to this. So this chart is a chart that was recently came to my attention that I was asked to give input about. And if you look at it from the Jaimini point of view, you can see that down there, you see the note, this person was running their major period of Aries, sub-period of Virgo. So focus in on Aries. We have the natural benefic Venus there, but as the GK, the Gyati Karaka, carrying all the significations of the 6th house, right?
Yeah.
And then from a Jaimini point of view, using Rashi Drishti, sign aspects, what influences does this planet, Venus as the GK, get?
Sun, Mars, Mercury, Saturn, and Moon.
So how many of those grahas are natural benefics and how many are natural malefics?
4 malefics and then 1, you can say also, actually all malefics.
Yes.
Yes, all malefics.
Yes. Almanacs. Now, which lord of the birth chart from the birth logna is Venus?
It's the 8th lord. And
Uh,
third.
from Sagittarius.
From
Venus
Sagittarius. From Sagittarius, it's the 6th lord and the 11th lord, Trick house.
So what does the 6th lord and the GK have in common?
They all signify the things related to 6th house of health.
Right.
And
under these so many malefic influence, particularly the two worst malefics, Mars and Saturn.
Yeah.
So what might come to mind about what some potentials, negative potentials, that the Aries period could potentially bring?
Oh, probably accidents and injuries. And even
Accidents and injuries.
Yeah.
Health crises.
Yeah.
Illness. Can we think about it? Could
Right.
be any of those things. It could be any 6th house signification, and you might remember who plays the role of the Maraka in the Jaimini system.
It's the Dharakarka.
Dharakarka. Is the Dharakarka involved here?
Yes, Saturn.
Yes, it is. Now come to the sub-period of Virgo.
That's the 8th from Aries.
Right. 6th, actually. But they're 6, 8 from each other.
Sorry. Yeah. 6 from, yeah.
Now you know that one of the techniques in Jaimini is to use the current period sign as a dasha, as a lagna, right?
Yeah.
See the pattern.
So Venus goes into the 8th with that aspect. All those aspects.
Well, which graha, karaka, signifies the body, like the first lord in this system?
Atmakarka.
Where does it fall from Aries?
In the Marka house. From
actually,
Aries, 12th house.
12th house.
Yes.
And does it have any affliction?
It receives the aspect of Rahu and Ketu.
Right. So here we're running a major period containing the GK under all malefic influence, who's also the 6th lord. And from this lagna, AK goes to the 12th with some affliction. Clearly, K and Ra would recognize in an instant that this period held some negative potentials in terms of health or other 6th house significations, right? Mm-hmm. Especially come now to the sub-period of Virgo. So he would take a clue from this, and then he would look at what period and sub-period it was in the Vinchotri Dasha, which in this case, actually the period that pulled out to the 3rd level, it's Mars, Mercury, Venus. It was Mars, Mercury, Venus when this chart came to my attention. Now, I'd be the first one to admit that in analyzing the Mars, Mercury period for its potentials, my immediate thought wouldn't be about health implications. It would not be. I'd have some other thoughts about it, but that wouldn't be my first thought. But here's my point. Having seen that the Aries period simultaneously, the Aries-Virgo period shows so strongly and so clearly health crisis, I might start thinking about that Mars-Mercury period in a different way. Besides the 5th, which house does Mars rule?
12th house.
12th house. Hospitalizations.
Yeah.
And then what sort of status does Mercury have for this lagna?
Oh, it's malefic.
Well, it becomes very malefic because it's with malefic, but as the lord of the 7th, it becomes a primary maraka.
Maraka, yeah.
So, the Laghu Parashi would say that when you're running the major period of a natural malefic who also rules a Dushtana, and the sub-period of a maraka could be a very unfortunate period. And this is exactly what has happened. This person, it's a woman, has been in a very major health crisis that has been involved in some invasive medical procedures involving hospitalization. So what I'm demonstrating from this is how the Jaimini system is informing you about ways in which the Mars-Mercury period could be manifested that you might not have a thought about had you not seen that from the Jaimini point of view. So
what was the period in Yogini for this person?
Well, interesting enough, it was Maraka. It was Mercury, Rahu.
Oh, okay.
People often forget or don't understand that. Now, let's be clear, you can be running Maraka periods and not so much as catch a cold.
Yeah.
But in the context, particularly as sub-periods within the context of certain major periods, they do have implications as far as bodily suffering and potential health issues during that time, which is what has been the case here. So, as I said, the course I'm going to be teaching is about, how to put these things together. First of all, how to analyze from a lot of different point of views what a particular Jaimini sign-based dasha can give, and then how to coordinate that with the filtering system to see clearly some potentials of a particular period of time. Again, it's not a course for pure beginners, but if you've learned the basics of Jaimini, this might be something that people could benefit from.
And it's
so this is what
and it's available on your website, markboney.com.
No, this is what I'm saying. It isn't yet. My website is markboney.com.
In March, you said it will be.
Well, by the end of this week, the course will be described and advertised. The course starts the weekend of March 7th. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is what I had to share with you today.
No, awesome. I love it. It kind of re-energizes my own, learning from past as well. So I always love it.
I'll just conclude by saying, and my students hear me say it all the time. With Jyotish, yoga show what, dashas show when. Yoga show a particular type of static potential. You might say a karmic potential that exists within the birth chart. Dashas show when that potential might activate. But the important thing is to be able to see to what degree it will activate, if it will activate at all, and what will be the quality of that. And it always comes down to conditioning of planets, as we saw in these examples, not just in the birth chart, but also sometimes some relative divisional charts, always Navamsha, and then the Shamsha if we're talking about, position in the world. And it's this qualification of yogas that is, as I said, the greater skill in Jyotish that you have to acquire. And it's something the programs cannot do.
Right. Absolutely.
They can help us identify them, but at least
actually even then they fail. But no, it actually needs an actual analyzing of the human eye for sure.
Right. So thank you again for having me on your show.
Thank you so much, Mark, for coming
here. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.